Nat Cole's Unforgettable always signals the, let me see, what does it signal, Tim? Oh, yes, Viewpoint. It's on the road every Wednesday morning at 8:15 to 9 o'clock. 96.3 for those who need a little help on getting the dial turned. We have some great guests this morning, but we always start a Viewpoint with a kudo or two. And I need to confess here in front of everybody on the air, both of the listeners and all of us here, that I'm kind of an obnoxious patriot, admittedly obnoxious. And I'm very, very delighted to see the flag is back up on the Lawndale overpass. Now, I don't know to whom that responsibility or our appreciation goes, but somebody on there in the Lawndale area tell whoever is responsible for getting that flag back up, thank you very much. That's a great sight. And you know, it's kind of people who travel 55 on a frequent basis, that's kind of become a landmark for them. And so I was down for a while for whatever reason, probably weather, for goodness sakes. It's back up and going. So thank you, Lawndale, whoever puts that flag up. Mr. Searby, we have a couple of newcomers to the community, and it might be well if both of our listeners knew who we had on as guests this morning.
Well, we are delighted to have Steve and Carolyn Schreiber with us from Lincoln Community
delighted. I'm
Theater.
Not sure of that.
I paid him well, Bill.
And they're going to tell us everything Lincoln Community Theater. Plus, we're going to talk about the arts in Lincoln.
We haven't got time for that. We can't. They tell us everything because we have a 45-minute program.
Oh,
and so
I thought
we're
it
going
was
to have to truncate it a little bit.
It's not extended today?
Well, we may talk with the manager in production.
Okay.
He's pretty lenient sometimes on that clock. Not always, but sometimes. Go ahead.
Well, we are excited. I'm also a board member on Lincoln Community Theater, so it's a little biased here, but we are thrilled at the response that we have received from the community of bringing community theater back.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Carolyn, you want to kick it off?
I sure will. And I think probably the best example of that is we just last weekend had our kickoff dinner for the season, the 2018 season. Had a marvelous crowd of people who came out. It's our opportunity to show our appreciation to all of our volunteers, to say thank you. And we have seen LCT grow from, gosh, do you think we can get this back up and going in 2015 to, I don't know, we had 150 or so people, and that's just a small sampling of the volunteers who are there, who are excited. If you measured it by the excitement among the board members alone, we'd probably have an explosion here. So we won't do that. But we are getting those people that we need. LCT cannot survive without all of the community support that we have monetarily. The cost of producing shows, we've talked about this, and actually I was just looking with Hollywood Hall yesterday at our contracts going up for Lincoln College. Just to have a place to put shows on, we got to have cash, and the community has responded tremendously. They've done that now since we.
What I appreciated seeing, Cara and Steve, and we'll include Tim too in the conversation. We just as well had, and he's here anyway. Seriously, I saw some old timers who had been patrons of the theater way back in the early days.
Yes.
Almost religiously there all the time. They showed up at that appreciation dinner.
Yes.
And I thought that was pretty neat to see the folks my age.
I think a great deal of our base are people who have been involved in LCT for years and years and years. The even greater thing were the number of faces, some of whom I don't even know yet, who have come to join us. We are getting some younger people. We really do need to pull that group of people in, because we need that energy. If we're not growing, if we're not changing, if we're not moving on with the times, we're dead. And they're here. They've started to come back. Last year we talked about the fact that in the shows there were so many people we'd never seen before. So for us, I think that's a huge help.
You know, we ought to recite the history of Lincoln Community Theater just briefly. Go back to the inception of it, and even before LCT started, it was community players of one type or another.
Yes.
Had plays at the old Grand Theater.
Yep.
Yes.
Saunders Devine and that group. You
Yeah,
bet.
Spencer
Yes.
Littleton, Saunders Devine, people that come out. Wilbur Wayman appeared on stage
Yes.
in the early days. You know, think of that. Yeah. So that goes back a long, long ways.
Oh, we've always had that, and also shows that were put on upstairs at University Hall at Lincoln College. When I first I auditioned for a community player show, that's where the show was going to be put on. So we got a big history here.
Any
For
place
those of
there's
us who
20
can
square
remember that
foot,
far.
we'll put a
We
show
can do
on.
that. That's right.
Yes.
Now you
That's
mentioned,
right.
was that the old administration building that had the little chapel, a little stage up there? Mm-hmm. That's the
Yes.
building that burned,
Yes.
and that was a chapel where I was a kid in school there.
Oh, wow.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's.
I don't think any of us were really
Is that
interested
the
in going to chapel.
1890s?
1890 something like that.
Yes.
Lincoln had just moved on.
Sorry, I could not resist. You set it up.
I just, at my age, I just have to sit there and take that stuff.
I think one of the things that's encouraging is that we've had, for a couple of years, a workshop or a period of time where young people have come to be involved with us and learn about the theater and become involved and learn movement and terms and those kinds of things, and really created an interest. And Tim did a children's show last year, Pirates the Musical, and the outpouring was unbelievable. How many kids did we have in that show?
We had 32 kids in the
32
show.
kids, and I'm sure there were some that got turned away because you just handle so many one time. And we're going to do that again this summer. Offer a workshop situation for probably grades 3 through 8.
I think actually we're even looking at K through 8 at this point. We haven't settled on what that's going to be, but that's a nice segue into where we're going with the children's workshop, which will be the last full week in June 25th.
Through
That week
25th through
through
29th, yes.
And we're looking at probably separating K through 3 or 4, and then either 4 or 5 through 8, so that we can kind of give the kind of help or the kind of instruction, if you want to call it that, the kind of experience that each age group will most benefit from. Tim will be once again doing a lot of that, so maybe he has some.
What's exciting to me is to see the interest already
Yes.
brewing in the community from not only the children but also from the parents. And last year, with getting a full-blown children's production together, the children had a great time, and this community is just blooming with talent.
Yeah.
And we need to continue to encourage that.
I won't even tell you where this comment came from because I wouldn't want to embarrass him, but the father of one of the children who were in Pirates the Musical, who had not been to rehearsals, who had no experience with Lincoln Community Theater, indicated to me that he was kind of dreading the idea of having to go sit through, golly, how many performances, because he wouldn't want to have to miss any of them. And so he was the designated go to the first night production or a rehearsal, and went home and said, "Oh my goodness, this is amazing. The show is incredible. This is not just some kids' production. These people are wonderful. They have sets, they have costumes, they have..." And so that's the kind of thing that kids are going to have an opportunity to be a part of here. And it's what builds the interest. Our kids went through LCT's workshops when they were children.
The makeup tables, wherever they could find
That's it.
I think that we ought to kind of flesh this out a little bit. There is a lot more involved than the actors that are on the stage.
Ooh,
And
yes.
so let's kind of go into
Yes.
to that part of it. The
Oh, well.
logistics of putting a show on are very significant.
We've already started. Of course, we have our directors for this season, and that's really where the concept, pardon me, that's really where the concept for the show starts, the whole vision. And this year we're so delighted to have Phil Funkenbush. Many people will remember him from working with Lincoln Christian University when he was a kid, and LCT, directing all the things that he does. So we're thrilled to have him back, and he has said delighted to be back. And then we have Dan McLaughlin, and who doesn't know Dan from Lincoln Community High School.
Pro forever was a pro. Right?
And the college, right, absolutely. So you get the vision there. But before we ever can put a show on the stage, we have so much work that has to be done just to get the rights put together, the publicity put together, the information that goes out there. Once we get that director together, we've got to get a production staff that's going to take care of leading all of the crews that have to get things done. Then we've got to have somebody who's going to build the set, got to have somebody who's going to make the costumes. It's just a never ending. When you have a children's show, when we have something like that, we have to have parents, we have to have volunteers just to be there, just to keep eyes on kids. So the list of things just is endless before you can ever begin to say, okay, we're ready for an actor. Then you got to worry about musicians and directors and people who run the sets during the show or run props during the show. We have on the board, fortunately for us, Dave Helm, who handles sound and lighting equipment for us and is just a one-man tech program. Without him, I don't know what we would do. He just walks in and handles all of it. But all of those things have to be handled. And fortunately, we're coming up with people who are there to do it. So.
And that was so exciting at our event, of people coming up saying, oh, I love to build.
Right.
And we have to have those people to help us build those sets and to do that type of thing. And it's exciting to see that the community is behind it and wants to see it happen.
There's a misconception out there that in order to participate, you have to commit weeks and weeks of time, etc. Well, some of us do.
Yes, some do.
But there are any number of things, especially in the building of the set, etc., where a couple of hours, one night a week, is really helpful. I mean, it's unbelievable how much we can accomplish with 3 or 4 people down there for a couple of hours. So, and it's same way with costumes, same way with everything. If you can't sew, you can cut out patterns. You can mail out things. There are so many jobs that require little time, but have to be done. So those are the kind of people we're looking for, and we've created this year what's called an auxiliary board, which is not a board of directors for the actual theater, but a board of organized volunteers to handle some of this stuff, and we're kind of excited about that. We have a lot of people say, well, I can give you a couple hours here, a couple hours there. So
exactly.
That's what we're looking for.
Yes.
Go ahead, Timothy.
One thing that, since we're at this point in talking about what happens, might be good to reiterate the season.
Oh, good.
So that
Absolutely.
folks understand what our season is this year.
And the reason it's a shorter season, because in the past, we've had 3, 4 productions sometimes.
Right.
And getting this thing kick-started again, it can take little mincing steps.
Right.
Yes.
It is. We did used to have 3 major productions, and we still are at the point of having just 2. Hate that. Would love to be able to do more. But again, we have to build a volunteer base who's available. At this point, we have for our first production, and that will be June 21st through 24th, The Man Who Came to Dinner. It is an old comedy. It goes back years, and it still is funny today. It is not an update comedy. It's not something you're going to update and say, oh, we'll change it and make it current. No. It is a stylized, beautiful, funny show that came out in 1939. And the things that happen in it are just crazy. It's one of those filled with antics. There's even a kind of Harpo Marx character. And it's a big cast. We need about 30 people to come in. Now, the nice thing about The Man Who Came to Dinner is that there are, I think, 6 or 7 leads, big parts, people who really want to be out there. And then there are probably 10, 15 supporting roles, some of whom are pretty good-sized characters, but the characters are amazing. They are just plum roles, and some of those are just in one scene or maybe two scenes. So the commitment of time during rehearsal, of course, is much more limited. You can say, no, I want to play that particular person, Professor Metz, and do a fun thing with him, but you're not committing hours and hours and hours of rehearsal every week. The show is just, it's hysterically funny. I should let Tim tell you more about if we get to synopsis, he knows the show well. And then our second show of the season is a show called Working. It's based on Studs Terkel's book, Working, which I think is subtitled something like A Look into the Lives of People Who Work and but the work they do and how they feel about it. The script actually for the show, then based on that book, was written by Schwartz and I can't think of her name. It's another writer, but it's that has been redone. Music was written by Schwartz. Jim Taylor has sung. Is that right? James Taylor has songs in there, and then a number of other songwriters, because it's a compilation of a number of different songs that work for this. I saw this show when Dan directed it. I don't remember. It's probably been 20 years ago at Lincoln College. It was probably the favorite thing, my favorite show. It's a series of vignettes, monologues by people, waitresses, teachers, steel workers, a paper boy, a fireman. They're any imaginable occupation, who talk about what they do and how they do it and what they're going, how they feel about it. And I guess if there's a common thread for it, it's the pride they take in no matter what the job is, and the fact that those jobs are vitally important. They have all the questions that all of us do about, what good am I here? And then the answer is you're the person who takes pride in doing whatever it might be. So the music is incredible. There are group songs, there are duets, trios, solo ensemble work, and it's a beautiful thing. That will be in July, the 20th
Carolyn,
through the 22nd and the 27th through the 29th.
We take pride in our sponsors. And we're going to recognize our sponsors with great glee, just like show business did. Go right ahead. Well, there's no business like show business. So welcome back to Viewpoint. Our guest this morning, co-host with Mr. Timothy Searby, a fellow that's just come around here recently. He's going to get to be known better in the community if he sticks around a little while. And our great guests this morning, Gretchen and Steve Schreiber. They might know a little bit of something about...
I bring Gretchen, but she's...
Carolyn.
This is
Carolyn, yes. Yeah. Oh, well.
We've got the whole family. We can bring in.
That's right.
I'm just a little... My marbles aren't quite as round as they used to be. They're a little off-center. Carolyn. Go ahead, Timothy.
As we visit with these fine folks, I'm getting ready to produce Godspell at Lincoln Christian University, but I'm putting together a part of the program, and I've been highlighting every year since we've been doing shows again out there, the area arts.
Are we going to charge you for this commercial?
And one of the things I want to talk about is what's on that page coming up, and I'm asking people to support the arts in Lincoln and Logan County. The first one coming up is Lincoln Area Music Society, which will be April 14th and 15th. The chorale and orchestra will be doing their combined concerts at Lincoln Community High School Auditorium.
And you can count on top-rate entertainment.
It's very well done, very well done. Lincoln Community High School will be producing Peter Pan, May 10th through 13th. Lincoln Land Concert Association has Ireland's Funny Man coming as their last show of the season on May 15th. Lincoln Community Theater, The Man Who Came to Dinner, June 21st through 24th. The Children's Theater Workshop, June 25th through 29th. Working the Musical, July 20th through 22nd and 27th through 29. Lincoln Christian University will be having Christmas in the Chapel again, and that will be in November 29 and 30 and December 1 and 2. Hartsburg is doing Back to the 80s, and that's coming right up too.
It is.
So you just take a look around Lincoln and Logan County, and we are still thriving with the arts, and I would encourage people to support those arts.
So many of the smaller high schools in the area always have shows going on. Olympia, Mount Pulaski.
Yes.
And those are also thriving.
And it's good training for these youngsters. It's excellent training for these youngsters. Now, 99 and 9900% will never do anything about as far as making a living in theater or anything like that. Very, very infinitesimal
It's
people
like being a pro ball player.
But the point is, it teaches them a lot about stage presence and how to handle themselves in public and so forth. The spin-off, the benefits of the spin-off, they're just countless.
We have, well, I always find it amazing that this little area has quite a number of people who have become successful with careers in show business. Mm-hmm. Not all of them as actors, though we have some. We have people who are involved in set design, running the backstage theater. Lauren Stanfield has just started as a stage manager at Heartland.
Yes.
And so we have people who are always involved in doing something. But beyond that, we have a tremendous number of area people who have gone on to teach in theater and speech. And again, when you talk about what that does for people, for students who come out of school and are looking for a job, who know how to present themselves, who know how to do what they have to do, there's just nothing better. There is no better experience than you're going to get being a theater.
Well, they just recently had the Academy Award. Brenda Chapman, it comes to mind.
Yes.
You know, Grand Dame off of the fields of Beeson.
Sure.
What I call the 3 Bs, Beeson, Broadwell, and Burtonville.
Yeah.
The fact that it encompasses so many, and as I say, it gives them some youngsters are not as outgoing as others. If they get on the stage and kind of get enmeshed into their particular roles, suddenly they have a lot of self-confidence and self-esteem, which they didn't have before.
Well, and I think the other thing there is when you do have a role to play on stage, you don't have to worry about how confident you are or what your fears are, because you're no longer there. And the character is there, and so you can be anything you want. That's a huge difference. I've had so many students myself who have said, oh, I just hate the idea of having to stand up and give a speech in class or to an organization, because they have to be themselves. But they can go out on stage and do anything. So I always just say, well, make believe you're, whoever the great speaker and play the role. That's exactly what you're going to be doing all your life. So we have a great organization, we have a great profession, we have a great situation that prepares people tremendously well.
Well, Tim just ran a litany of shows that we have going on in the community.
Yes.
Anchored by, of course, the LCT marvelous Christmas production. My goodness gracious, that I see stage work and productions there that would rival big city stuff. And we just cut Carolyn off the mic. We're going to have to, oh my. The show's over, Tim.
Well, then, can I talk about Godspell?
Yes.
You're co-host.
I would love to invite the community to come and see the production of it. We're calling it Godspell Reimagined. I saw the movie musical The Greatest Showman and fell in love with it. And so our reimagining of Godspell will be set at the circus. We'll have the bearded lady, we'll have the albino girl, but it's the same great script and score.
Does that mean that Gene's not going to have to shave for a while?
There you go. Ooh. You have to go home, young man.
Yes. And that'll be March 22nd, 23rd, and 24th at Lincoln Christian University in the chapel. Love for people to come and see this reimagining of Godspell. But that's enough about that.
No, that's all
I'd
right.
like to get back to Lincoln Community Theater. I am so thrilled to see the support, and we've already talked about that, but we want to encourage people too to come and see the shows.
Sure.
And so we will have the information out there. Things are already out, and if you look at our website, there's lots of information. Do you want to reiterate a little bit about our sponsors and things like that and how that works? I think people need to know that.
Yeah. We put out a program with each production, and in that program there are advertising spaces, and we have a number of supporters that put ads in that program. We solicit that starting about now till about a month before the show goes on. And then we have what are known as patrons, which are those people who are just private individuals that want to see the continuance of the theater and donate various amounts of money, from a $20 bill to, we've had some pretty sizable donations of over $1,000.
That's remarkable.
That's what keeps this thing going. If people knew actually what it cost to put on a production, this year in January, we sent $7,300 worth of checks just to get the rights to do the shows. Mm-hmm. Now that's out of the budget. And thank goodness we're healed fairly well. But just to get started, $7,300. Then you've got another $3,000 for set material. You've got another $1,500 for costumes. This first show that we are doing, The Man Who Came to Dinner, requires a huge, magnificent set. And people have become to expect that of us. We tend to
do great sets on.
Pretty decent stuff.
That's right.
Probably the community will hear down the road or see on our Facebook page a list of wants for that show, various pieces of period furniture to be loaned, that kind of thing, because it is a stylized show of the late 30s, early 40s, and we'll need some special pieces. So anybody that's got some of that stuff hidden away in the garage or the back room that you're not using on a regular basis, why, we'll put the list out, and hopefully we can acquire some of those things. But all of that takes time, effort. Just the tools, just a simple box of screws to put sets together is $10. It just kind of blows your mind when you figure out what it really costs. But so to put on a production, $10,000 to $14,000 for a major production is what it costs before we sell the first ticket. So we are delighted that the community is supporting us.
Yes.
Our audiences are growing, and I think they're growing because we're getting people from the surrounding community. We've had people from Mount Pulaski, from Clinton, from Springfield, Bloomington. People have come to participate because of the quality of what we're doing.
Yes.
And already, I know Phil Funkenbush has people coming from Peoria and Springfield to audition for the show. So,
really?
And that brings people.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Carolyn has a secret method of getting advanced audiences. She puts about 30 kids in a show, and that gets you 150 people right there. You see
I think perhaps our listeners might not understand this royalty business and how you go about acquiring the rights to put on a show. You just can't just say, well, we're going to put on Man Who Came to Dinner. That doesn't work.
No.
You have, all of the shows are licensed through different organizations.
Sure.
Dramatists, we have, this year ours are Music Theater International and dramatists. And just to have the rights to do the show, it's like the rights to anything else. Somebody is getting money for having put up this musical. And those organizations are the ones who collect that money. They own the rights. They see to it that the writer, the songwriters, the people who deserve the money for having created this piece of art get that money. So you have to, first of all, just be licensed. There are times when those licenses are not available, either because they are being put on too many places in your surrounding area, or because there's a hold on it, because somebody has said, but we want exclusive rights to it for a short period of time. Right. And so that can happen. I don't think we've ever run into that problem, other than there are times that you might want to do something and the rights simply aren't out there yet. So you have to get those. And for a musical, those run in excess of $3,000 to $4,000. You also then have to rent all of the music that is needed by the orchestra, all of the script materials and music materials that actors and singers are going to need. So then you're going to add another $1,000 or so just to have those for a short time. And for a play, it is less expensive, I will say. We can pick up royalties for that sometimes for less than $1,000. And depending upon the popularity of the show, the age of the show, sometimes that will impact and give you a little bit less money that you have to spend. But you still got to buy scripts. All of those expenses come into what you have to do to get this work done. And as I was listening to Steve, one of the things that I don't want to neglect to mention is that although I don't understand how all of it is done, we have wonderful people who do our media organization. And you can go online to www.lincolncommunitytheater.org and get to our website. You can volunteer. You can donate. You can find out the dates of shows. You can find out the list of things. As Steve said, there are things that we will be needing. And we have terrific people who are managing that and keeping that up to date, so you don't have to worry about what am I supposed to do. You can buy tickets there and when that sale begins. So and we also have a Facebook page just to find out the fun stuff that's going on, silly things that are happening, and just to keep in touch with people who are involved in theater. So I just want to pitch that one as well, to say if you are concerned or if you're worried or wondering what's happening, we can't always get every bit of information out there that we'd like to, but it is on the website. You will find it.
And it's much more information now than we had in the past,
yes.
And good information that
Yes.
will give you information about tickets, about dates, things like that, needs. And then it's, and
absolutely.
like you said, the fun stuff that's happening behind the scenes, some of the celebrations, things like that. So
Right.
it's a great thing to go to so that you can keep up on what's happening
Well,
with
and I
Lincoln
think
Community
one of
Theater.
the things that's going to be on there, we had interviews with Phil Funkenbush and with Dan McLaughlin, and I think if you go to the website, you'll be able to find those as well.
Yes.
It's too bad Lou Johnson and Bev are not with us, because they can tell you a lot about the Lincoln Theater at 2 o'clock in the morning after rehearsal.
Yes. Yes.
I always said, Mr. Ash, I was going to name the theater's co-respondents, because they would have post rehersal discussions.
Yes.
That's what they were.
Yes.
They were.
Was making the
Is that
show
what you
better.
call them still?
Right.
You're still.
Artistic discussion.
That's right. That's right.
A forerunner to LCT way back when Lincoln was Deaconess Hospital there on 7th Street, and they were going to build a new Abraham Lincoln Memorial Hospital. And somebody had a great idea, and they brought in this director from New York. I can see him in my mind's eye today. And they put on a great community production at the high school.
Yes.
And, we had people from all over this county coming in and volunteering and making their first appearance on stage, and they all enjoyed it a lot.
It was terrific.
I remember one of the things I MC and there was Dr. Gadurka from Mason City, and my line was, Dr. Gadurka doing the berserker.
As you talk about that too, when you're in the theater, you make lifelong friends. And
Oh.
you stay in touch with those people, and just the excitement of creating that art together
Right.
ties you together with those people, and you just make tremendous friendships.
Well,
through
it's like
this.
having Phil come back
Yes.
to do shows here.
Yes.
We were absolutely delighted when he applied to direct, and thrilled that he could do so, thrilled that we could have him back working with LCT.
Yes.
But his excitement about coming back and being able to be involved with people that he was involved with years ago is absolutely palpable. He's just ready to go.
Yes.
So
And it turned on the TV the other night, and Carolyn Herdeman from Lincoln High School was on, Chicago Fire or something, was on television.
Yeah, it was.
And she is in contact with one of our daughters on a regular basis, and keeps track of how the theater's coming and going, because she spent a lot of time in her younger days here.
You know, we precluded people from calling in because they don't know the number. 648-5510. Somebody might have to have a comment. You can even criticize this. It's okay. We're big folks up here. We have two, kind of the linchpins of the reinvention of Lincoln Community Theater with Carolyn and Steve Schreiber. Appreciate your taking your time this morning. I know that you usually have a commitment at Old Joe's about 10 o'clock every morning.
We had to postpone that a little bit.
We're glad you made time.
Yeah, so you made some time for it. We appreciate it. No, Lincoln Community Theater has been a mainstay of entertainment for a lot of people for over a number of years, and it's a really neat thing. You know, Carolyn, you might describe at one point in time, the demise, if that's not a correct word, but the lull.
The hiatus.
The hiatus. Thank you.
hiatus.
There's the word I'm looking for.
hiatus.
Thank you very much. And the reasons for the hiatus, and now we're reborn.
I really and truly, I think we've done a lot of examining of what happened to Lincoln Community Theater when it finally just had to end. And I think what happened is there's a change in society, a change in our culture, where many, many, many more people are working all the time. Mm-hmm. Many of the people who were available to assist with doing theater, and it takes all of those people, we just kind of were losing them. Or people who had been involved either moved away, or really and truly you get to the point where you can't just keep doing it. And the weight of all of the stuff that had to be done kind of was falling back on just a very few board members. Mm-hmm. And at some point, it kind of slid. Then your audience slides because you aren't getting the word out there as much as you have to. You have to have a tremendous amount of energy just to keep people involved in doing what they need to do. And it really and truly came from Tim Searby, who said, I just would like to get together with a few people who know what Lincoln Community Theater was and talk about, could we get this coming back again? And we sat down in his living room with 15 or so people and talked about what it would take to pull LCT back together. And we said what it takes is enthusiasm and a lot of energy and people who are willing to just put in the work that has to be there. Well, fortunately, we were retired recently. And and I think you have to have somebody, and I think that was years ago. That was the genes. Those were the people who had summers because they were school teachers, or who could take their time because they could tell their husband they were going to be out all night because of business, whatever.
I heard about that.
But you have to have those people who have time, and I think what happened to LCT is it just kind of ran out of steam for a while, and it wasn't just the people who weren't there to direct or be in the shows. It was the energy to get it to spread out through the community, and that's what's back again. And we have young people involved, Tom and Brittany McLaughlin, who are wonderful, Katie Gossett, a kid, literally a kid, who is now involved and is going to be one of the liaisons for the Man Who Came to Dinner. And so
that's what's helping this. That's when I say we need volunteers. We need people to say, I'd like to help, but I really and truly can't. And I can think of a couple of people who have said I really can't do much of anything, but I could seal an envelope or put letters in. That's what we need.
Well, the Grand Dame, who is now
Yes, officially a Grand Dame.
Officially
Yes,
a Grand Dame. That was a very nice gesture, by the way.
Oh, it wasn't a gesture. It
she
was
quite
something.
surprised. To this day, at her age, she still is enthusiastic about the theater.
Absolutely.
And
She always-
when she
always-
first started.
Always
Yes,
ends her
yes.
conversations with, if there's any, I can't do a whole lot, but whatever I can do, I'm willing to. And for those who don't know, Bill's wonderful, beautiful, gorgeous, incredible wife, Jean, who has become our first Lincoln Community Theater board member emeritus, but was also bestowed the honor of being LCT's own Grand Dame, because she is. Now, it also could be that she's just a Grand Dame, but we'll
there's
take
that
her
to be
either
said.
way. And she is loved by all, absolutely loved by all. Her contribution has been amazing.
Well, she kind of represents the thread of what's great about LCT is the involvement of the dedication
Yes.
of so many. It's not just, oh yeah, I can help. Some of them really, and thank goodness they do because it's necessary, really get dedicated and do a lot besides just trotting the board, so to speak.
Right. And it's the excitement that's created by someone like Jean
Yes.
Gossett
Yes.
that carries it into the community. And that's what we need. We need that excitement for the theater to move throughout the community.
Well, and I think what
Yes.
we have to remember is it's fun.
Yes,
Jean
yes.
always says, it's fun and it's cheaper than therapy. So, by all means,
Well, it beats
join us.
drinking.
Yes.
And it does,
Maybe.
Well, we all have to, I am not a psychology student or anything, but we all have to have an outlet of some sort.
Yes,
Some
absolutely.
play golf, some go down and shoot pool, just so. But we all have to have an outlet of some
That's
sort.
right.
And this is certainly an outlet for the community. And I would urge those who are out there in both of the listeners, Tim, to contact Lincoln Community Theater if they want to help in any way at all.
Absolutely.
Not the least of which would be a check of some sort.
Yes.
I also will add to that, because I want to make sure everybody understands, we need actors in these shows. We have been talking about all of the things that we need besides actors, but we need actors in these shows who range in age from kids to, you can't get too old, Bill. I mean, we can still recruit you.
Well, my equity card's expired.
Oh, well, I think that's okay.
We'll overlook that.
I'm glad I didn't expire for it.
The shows both have places for the young as well as quite past mature, because they're just, again, they're wonderful roles in these shows. So I don't care how old you are. If you think you're too old, I wouldn't have any place for me. Yes, we would. Yeah, we would. When
Well,
we have
maybe we'll have
auditions,
to team up.
and I do want to mention that auditions are coming up. I don't know if we said the 7th and 8th
Right. April.
of April. And so that's a month away. And hopefully we will be getting our scripts at the library. We'll have a couple of men who came to dinner scripts, and we may have the sides that we need for the show for working, but we will not get all of those materials until May sometime, so it'll take that.
Right. And the other thing that I would just, from our original bylaws, one of the things that we were to do was to make theater available for children.
Yes.
And just to see how a young child who maybe is very withdrawn and who is afraid to be in front of the people, the way they blossom and the way they learn how to present themselves, that carries into their jobs.
And
that
that's
carries
our
them
future.
through. It
That's the
is.
future of
Absolutely. Yes. So, we can use all ages.
It's
Yes.
as you suggest, a youngster who might be very shy, and all of a sudden they found this new outlet,
Yes.
and they become a different youngster, and that carries through in their adult life.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, unfortunately, the time has come around to try to come up with a quotation that's somewhat analogous to the subject matter of the day. I found one that's fairly new. It came from As You Like It, 1623. This might be a new one for somebody. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women are big players. They have their entrances and their exits. And we exit with a thank you very much to Carolyn and Steve Schreiber.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.